Hello, my name's Nat, and I'm inching my way through the book of Luke, and I'm using AI as a bit of a Bible study tool. I've gotten to the most difficult parable on the planet. In fact, in my research, basically everyone says that it is the hardest parable of all to decipher. And I'm going to venture into it today. It's not easy, but I reckon I'm looking at it in a way that is probably different to what you thought. And old mate is just turned up with his hip-hop music. That's so good. While I have a break in hip-hop, I'm going to get into my hoisin sauce and my rice paper rolls. I'm really looking forward to this. The parable in question is Luke 16. It's the shrewd manager, or the dishonest steward. And it's really, really hard, because when you read it, you think to yourself, hang on, Jesus is actually condoning really dishonest behavior. At least that's what it sounds like. And I've read it before, as you probably have, and I thought, I'm not sure I understand that. It's really complicated, and you just move on. I've heard other people talk about it. I've heard people try to explain it in a way that makes the dishonest manager not feel dishonest, to kind of make the whole thing feel right. But I don't know, that's reading into it. It doesn't make sense to me to do that either. Let me give you a quick recap of the parable of the dishonest steward. There's obviously a very successful business landowner guy who has a manager, and he gets wind that the manager of his affairs is crooked. Calls him up and says, hey, I hear you're pretty crooked. I'm going to sack you. Provide an explanation for what you've been doing. And of course, he goes away and says, what the heck? What am I going to do? I can't beg. I'm too proud for that. And I'm not going to work out in the fields. I'm too old for that. So, hey, I've got a great idea, says the dishonest steward. I'm going to take all the bills from my manager, from the boss, from the guy who owns them, and chop them all in half. What a great idea. Everyone will love me, and there's a term in there, they will welcome me into their homes, right? And then, for a twist, you think that the boss, the owner of all of this wealth, is going to shred this guy who's just basically halved all of the incoming debts. But no, he comes and says, great job. It just, at no point is it predictable, and at no point is it anything like any other parable that Jesus talks about. I think one of the biggest problems with this particular parable is that we're so used to looking at parables in a certain archetype, I guess, a certain way. And that is to say that there's usually like an honest person, like a hero of the story, like the Good Samaritan, or the workers in the vineyard. There's a landowner that hires people. Like there's always a good person, right? And at the end of the parable, it's essentially go and do likewise, or be like that person. Who is it in this parable that you're supposed to be like? I don't know. The thing that I have got from this, after reading it like over and over and chatting to my AI counterpart to kind of pull it apart and put it back together and look at it from a different angle, there's a couple of things that I've noticed. One is that the actual landowner, the manager, the guy who hires the dishonest business manager, nowhere does it actually say that he's good. I reckon he's just as crooked as the dishonest manager. The other thing is the dishonest manager never gets his job back, even though he tried hard to please other people. It all just doesn't make sense. And I tell you what, there's one line that everything hinges upon. It's verse 8, where Jesus says, people who belong to this world are more clever in dealing with their peers than are people who belong to the light. I tell you, and this is where it gets weird, I tell you, use worldly wealth to make friends for yourself so that when it's gone, you'll be welcomed into eternal homes. nice bike. So, with all of this in mind, what on earth is going on? A few observations. The guy who owns this massive business empire, nowhere does it say he's good. And that actually doesn't fit to most other parables that Jesus talks about. There's always a good person in the parables, and that's actually not the case with this one. Another observation I have is that the dishonest landowner never gets his job back at the end. He's done a good thing, I guess, but it's not like his position was restored, which, you know, there's a nice wrap-up in a lot of other parables of Jesus. So I actually think this is not a parable. This is actually a cautionary tale, which is different. Jesus is talking about, essentially, how stuffed, how screwed you become if money is your thing. It's corrupting, and here's a story to prove it. People try to cheat out of money. People use money to manipulate their ways and manipulate relationships. Look, these people of darkness who use this corrupting stuff called money, they are absolutely polluted. You look at it. From the owner to the business manager, everyone, everywhere, they're absolutely stuffed. Let's not forget, this comes right before, this whole parable cautionary tale comes right before Jesus acknowledges that the Pharisees love money. And then it goes on and talks about being good stewards, being faithful with little things, and then being entrusted with much more. It makes sense in the next phase of what Jesus is talking about. Is this perfect? I don't know. It's time for some more hoisin sauce. Love it. She loves it too. She's not going to say it. So is this reading of mine like fully watertight? Probably not. Does it like wrap up every loose end that this weird parable gives? No, I don't think so. It's the best I've come up with so far. It's actually honest to what's going on in the story, and I think, oh, go for it, walk past, it's fine. No, that's all right. And I think it actually ties up more loose ends than any other reading. Critically, I like the way it goes into being good stewards afterwards, which is a bit of a pivot point, but that actually makes total sense to me. If you think I'm completely wrong, I want to know about it. Drop a comment below. And if you want to know why I'm doing this, here's a video that kind of explains that as well. Meanwhile, I'm stuck with my hoisin sauce and duck. It's duck. That's what it said on the label. Street photography. No one wants to be part of it. That's fine.